when I was in China, I had this pet obsession. I was the only child at that time, so I didn't have anyone to talk to, so I decided, let me get myself a hamster. So I did. I got this big hamster. It was orange and white, and it came in this little plastic jar, this from China, cheap one, with air hose punch on the side. I was like, great, I have my first buddy. So I took him everywhere. I took him to picnic, road trip, sleepovers, sometimes. And we do everything together. So one day after a very, 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 very long road trip, my dad is like exhausted. So let's go to a restaurant, let's go eat. So I said, okay, that's cool. So we went to a restaurant, we ate, and that took about 1 hour or so. And I went back to the car. As I make my way back to the car, and I see my hamster in the back seat, and I was just like, oh my goodness, Daddy, we forgot him. Open the door, I want to play with him. So he unlocks the door, and I rush to the back, and I just grab the jar. And I see my hamster, his body was stretched, he was doing like something like this, and half of his body was buried in wood beddings, and then the other half was just like stretched like a roasted sausage on a stick. So I was just like, hi buddy, how are you doing? And I like accidentally shook the jar, and then my hamster started rocking back and forth. Like, I was like, oh, what's this? And I started shaking again, and I just hear the head banging on the jar like this. And I was like, oh. And I keep on shaking the jar for like 5 minutes, and then I stop, and I just stare at that stone cold dead hamster body. Snap, I'm gonna kill this hamster. So I started crying in front of this fancy restaurant, and I just like curled up in the ball and then hold my jar, and I just started crying really, really, really hard because he was practically my first friend. I was just like, when I killed this friend, I'm so sorry. So I cried. My dad said, it's okay, we'll get you another one. And he did. Got me another hamster. This one came in the same jar, different color cat, and an air hose punch on the side. This one was a smart one. Never found out if it was dead or alive, because the night I got him, I put him on my bunk bed. I sleep on the bottom bunk because the top bunk is always filled with junk. So I just put him up there and said, good night, go to sleep. And then the next day I woke up, climb on the top bunk, and I just see this open jar. So I said, Dad, did you come in my room and like take my hamster? He was like, no, I never come in your room. It's okay, maybe it's hiding in the bedding, trying to go to sleep. So I roll up my sleeves and I just reach down and I grabbed nothing. There's nothing in the bedding, and I was just like, holy. So this hamster is smart enough to open the cab and escape. But since my room was the definition of messy, I gave it a try to look for it. So it's probably somewhere dead or alive in my room back in China. So in 2008, I moved to the United States, and the first thing I did, since the pet obsession, I went to PetSmart and I grabbed another hamster. And this one was gray, and he had a white cross marked on his chest, and he had a huge butt. So I was like, Bobby the Hootie, okay, Bobby. So Bobby and I have the greatest time of my life, because in America you can find many, many weird, exotic things. So I bought glow-in-the-dark cages. Sometimes like I wake up midnight and I see the hamster cage, like the wheels and they're turning around. And then I bought him like toys, like castles, and like things that he, like Formula A hamster food. I give him the best I could, and because he was like my other half, my soulmate. One afternoon, I was cleaning cages in the backyard. Cleaning. I put him in the hamster ball because I wanted to exercise. So I was running around for like a good 10 minutes, and when I first moved here, I didn't know how hot Texas would get. So I was cleaning, I looked back, and then he's just there, and he sat on his butt like I'm like this, like I'm done. I said, okay. So I grabbed another open jar, I learned my lesson. And I put him in the jar, and I kept on drying the cage. And when I was done, I looked back, and I see him doing this on the jar. I was like, oh, you're trying to work out in the jar. Good job. Keep up the good work. That night, I reassembled everything, put in fresh bedding, water, food. I was like, okay, I'm ready to let you in. So I let him out from the jar, and that's where I saw Steve in the jar. So he climbed out, and then he just like, right in front of the cage, right in front of where the cage opens, he just stops. He just stayed there. I said, what's wrong, Bobby? You're not feeling it today? And he just like that. And I try to touch him, I pet him. Usually he doesn't like petting, so whenever I try to pet him, he will bite me, and he didn't even look at me. And I was like, okay, maybe you're really tired, I'll let you in the cage and call it a day. Midnight, had the urge to go pee. So I had to go to the bathroom, and I was there, and I was like, maybe I should check on Bobby since he was being a little weird today. So I did, turn on the lights. I was like, where are you? And I see him in his little igloo, and he was half crawling out, eyes half open. So I was like, hey Bobby. And he didn't do anything. He just like stared at me. And then I said, okay, you give me the attitude. I don't like that. So I blowed on the bedding, tried to scare him. He didn't even flinch. I was like, something's weird. So in the cage, lift up the igloo, and as my palm like wrapped around his like round body, and it felt like I was holding a rock. And like I pick up this rock and I just hold it in my palm and I just look at it. It's like, I'm sorry, Bobby. He was the first hamster that I ever had when I was in the States, and it just felt like losing someone very important in your life, except it was a hamster. And then, so I thought I needed to do something good for him. So the next morning, I climbed over to my neighbor's fence. It wasn't developed back then, so I dug a hole and I put him in and covered it up, watched the sunset, and now someone lives there, but they don't need to know that they have a dead hamster. Going back, when I was in middle school, I lived with my grandparents, and what Asian old grannies like to do in the morning is to wake up early, exercise, and do what grannies do. So one morning she was running late on time, and usually she would come to my room and wake me up for school. And she was running short on time. She's like, Julie, wait, go wake up your grandfather. I was like, yeah, sure. So I slept on my jeans, went to my grandpa's room. It was dark, but I had a nightlight on, so I couldn't tell if he was awake. So I had to walk closer, and then I see him laying there, so I like had to shake his arm, and I was just like, Grandpa, wake up, late for exercise. And then as soon as I touch his arm, and I just feel like this cold, tense muscle, and then like I jumped back. I was 7th grader back then, and I did not know what to do, so I froze. And stood there, I was like, Grandma, please come, turn on the lights. And then she did. She made her way around the stairs, and then she comes, she's like, what's wrong? And then she turned on the lights, and then both of us look at my grandfather. And then I see his posture, I see his face, I see how he was laying, and then I'm just like, so it didn't hit me till much later because I wasn't depressed like everyone else, since he raised me up till I was the age of 4, and I really don't remember anything before 4. And so he was like, I was just like living with a stranger, and I did not know how to feel about his death. It was just like, oh, one more dead person in the family. What do I do? But right before we went back to China to prepare for his funeral, I developed this phobia of coldness. I couldn't sleep at night, and I tend to walk around my family member's room. I'll open their door, their bedroom door. I'll walk close to them. I'll touch their arms and legs to make sure they're not cold. And if they're cold, I'll sit by them, hold their arm or hold their leg, and I'll wait till the temperature rises up, and then I can go away and sleep. And all this time, I just felt like I was cursed with coldness. Cold was a signal to death, and whenever I started to care about death, I was only 12. I shouldn't care about death. My life just begun, and I'm ready to go into college, ready to go to high school, and then get ready to go to college. And it's just like the word death just interferes with my life, and I'm just like, what is this? So I started to care about death as I am being cold. So whenever now and then I touch someone with cold arms and cold whatever, I just felt like, and just kept on reminding me of how much I could have taken the first hamster out of the car before I go eat dinner, how much I could have realized the steamy jar that Bobby was in, and how much I could have cared more for my grandfather before he turned cold too.